Hey, what's up, guys? Ray Master Flex here. I'm back here for a different video here. WrestleMania is literally just around the corner. WrestleMania is this Sunday, and I wanted to do a video here tonight, actually today, talking about my WWE Wrestlemania 34 predictions here. I would have waited until after SmackDown Live had came on, but I know that basically there's no point of that because it's pretty. I mean, it's just no point of me waiting here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do my prediction here today. You probably might see another video tomorrow uploaded and Friday as well. So be prepared for that. Not a wrestling video, but just another video on this channel to let you know that. But And let me just make this point before I start my prediction. There's a lot of matches on this card, so I kind of expected. There's 13 matches altogether on the card. I expected some matches to be thrown into the pre-show. I expected 3 matches to be thrown into the pre-show, and I just want to say that, as it pertains to, I just want to make this point because I never like to put my predictions out there for pre-show matches. I never really care much for pre-show matches, but I am highly disappointed that the Cedric Alexander's match with Mustafa Ali is not on the main card because just last year, this is one of the reasons why Neville was upset because his WrestleMania match that he had with Austin Aries was on the pre-show for the Cruiserweight Championship, and they're doing the same thing this year with Cedric Alexander. The one moment that this man would really get to actually win the Cruiserweight Championship, and they put this match in the pre-show when this could actually steal the show with Mustafa Ali at WrestleMania, and it's just crazy that that match has been put on the pre-show, and I know that there's already like 2 women matches on the main card, but it's also kind of sad that the women's battle royals on the pre-show because it's like the first time these women get the opportunity to have a battle royal of their own, and it's been thrown on the pre-show. Whereas when the men's had their first Andre the Giant Memorial, that was actually on the main card. But now, every year now it's on the pre-show. So that's just one thing to put about the pre-show here. Also, I wanna touch on this whole Cena and Taker thing here. Now, I'm not gonna talk about the that particularly because as an actual match here. I'm just gonna say that I don't know what they're doing here. I don't know if this is supposed to be something that just randomly happens out of the blue where Cena's a fan and there's rumors that people are saying Taker's gonna come back as the American Badass. I don't know. But I just find this really ridiculous. I didn't think Taker needed to come back to begin with, but the way that this build up is, if you're how you gonna build all this talk about Taker coming out of retirement, Cena comes week after week after week about Taker coming out of retirement, mocking Taker's sit up, choke slamming Kane last week on Raw, doing all these things to try to get Taker to come back, and then he doesn't show up. I mean, I just don't get the purpose of that build up. I don't even care for the match, whether it happens or not. I was not a fan of it happening in the first place. I think Taker whoever, no matter what gimmick he would try to come back as, he should have been done and firmly done after last year. Last time we even seen Taker was on the 25th anniversary of Raw back in January 22nd. That episode of Raw when we seen him. So I just don't know what they're doing here or what the purpose of even bringing this up for. If they were just gonna have Taker not show up on Raw or something to actually confront John Cena. So I don't get the purpose of why they were doing all this just for taking the national up. So, like I said, some people are saying that this is their logic of having Taker come at WrestleMania, but even then, that this is not a good way to book this at all. So I just don't get what they're doing with that match here, and nor do I care whether it happens or not. I don't get it. It's just kind of ridiculous to me. All right, so I never go in order here, but to not blamble and talk a lot. And let me just say this: last year there were about several title changes that happened at WrestleMania. I truly believe that this WrestleMania we're going to get about, if not the same amount of title changes. You could definitely agree that it's going to be multiple title changes at WrestleMania this year, almost similar to what happened last year. Okay, so first up, I'm actually going to start with Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey versus Stephanie McMahon and Triple H. Now, this is an interesting one because, Ronda Rousey, a lot of people have complained and said that her acting is just horrible. And when she talks on the mic, her mic skills is just awful. I mean, the last time something similar like this happened where someone had their first time bursting on the scene in WWE goes back to 20 WrestleMania 31 when Triple H faced Sting. And as we all know, Triple H actually beat Sting. So I kind of think that even though this is Kurt Angle's big return match at WrestleMania, I somehow have a feeling now this could go the opposite way. It could be Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey winning. It definitely could be them winning for Ronda Rousey's first WrestleMania. But I kind of feel like in order to pay her fair share, in order to pay her debts to being at WWE, I kind of feel like they're going to do something shady here where Triple H and Stephanie McMahon wins the match. And I mean, like I said, Kurt Angle and Ronda could definitely probably win it. But at the same time, I mean, it would just be too. I mean, most of this card is pretty predictable anyway, but this would be way too predictable if they have Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey win. I kind of feel like in some way, and I could be wrong, I could be the only one saying this, so you don't have to agree with me here, but I kind of feel like in some way that Triple H and Stephanie are going to win this match. I don't know how they're going to win it, but I feel like they're going to win this match in some shape or form. I feel like there's going to be some shady thing that happens or just something weird that happens. I mean, because let's face it here, like I said, Triple H, the last time that someone new came to WWE on the main roster, someone came to Raw and they had never been to WWE before, that person was Sting. Sting had always been in WCW. He had never stepped foot in WWE. Even back when they were doing the invasion angle, when it was WWF still, he didn't appear in the invasion angle. He refused to come. At that time, pretty soon he was coming to TNA. So, it's been a similar path where it's kind of like if you're gonna come to WWE for the first time, you gotta pay your fair share. And I mean, this is kind of something that goes way back to WrestleMania 31 because that's when it all started. And I just kind of feel like even though, and what Stephanie said on Raw last night was just that was cold. When she was like, "We know how you handle losses," because Ronda Rousey. It's sad to say that line had to be the best line I heard all night when they were going back and forth last night on Raw. I think the build up to this match has been okay to say the least. I'm not going to say this is one of the best build ups because I mean I would say that last night probably could have been the better way to set this aside for WrestleMania. I mean, it's been some cheap attacks Triple H has given Kurt Angle, and really this dates back to Survivor Series when Triple H first pedigreed Kurt Angle, and when he was actually his teammate on Team Raw. I mean, like I said, it could go. Kurt Angle and Ronda Rousey could win the match definitely, but I kind of feel like in some way or shape or form, I could be wrong here, but I feel like Triple H and Ronda Rousey, because Triple H at this point, Triple H has already lost like two WrestleManias in a row. Last year's WrestleMania and the year before that, Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. I mean, and then he already set the record last year when he lost at WrestleMania to having one of the most losses at WrestleMania. Because at this point, I believe he's lost 12 times at WrestleMania. So he lose this year, this will be the 13th time he would have lost at WrestleMania. So I kind of feel like for this one, Triple H and Stephanie could win here. I'm not saying it because I'm down Kurt Angle and Ronda by being Kurt Angle's first match after WrestleMania, but I mean I wouldn't be surprised if Kurt Angle and Ronda win as well. But I wasn't, I'm not really too high on this, but it is what it is here. And so next up, We have Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor versus The Miz for the IC title. Now, there's a lot of people out there that's saying that Seth Rollins is going to finally win the Intercontinental Championship. A lot of predictions that thinks that Seth Rollins is going to finally win the Intercontinental Championship. But as good as Seth Rollins been doing, because Seth Rollins has been in a role here. He had an excellent match with Finn Balor last night on Raw. Actually, one of the best matches I've seen between them two. Um, you know, he had an amazing performance in a gauntlet match back in February on Raw. That was something I could just never forget. He actually set the record for making that match become the longest match in history when that match had taken place. That became the longest match on Raw in history. Um, and he had a good performance in the Elimination Chamber. So, Seth Rollins has had some amazing performances as of this year, as of late. But I don't believe that as much people are saying Seth Rollins will win, I kinda can see the Miz retaining the Intercontinental Championship here. Because like I said, there's already gonna be numerous title changes at this WrestleMania. But I believe that this is going to be the one match where the title doesn't change hands. And the only reason why I say that because normally when they're always talking about someone setting a record of being the longest reigning this, the longest reigning that, then you kind of know that that person is not going to lose that title anytime soon. Because the fact that they keep saying that if the Miz holds the title for this much longer, he's going to be the longest reigning Intercontinental champion, it's kind of obvious here that they would have the Miz retain the title in order to make that happen. Because you can't just keep saying that, but then don't have him retain the title, and it doesn't happen. The only way the Miz is going to actually become one of the longest reigning Intercontinental championships in history, uh, along with the other Intercontinental champions, is if he actually retains the title at WrestleMania. So I kind of feel like the Miz here is going to beat Finn Balor and Seth Rollins. It's actually a fun fact that this is Finn Balor's first WrestleMania because, uh, he was injured last year and he couldn't wrestle WrestleMania. So this is Finn Balor's first WrestleMania here, and in his first WrestleMania, he's going to take a L. Because it's pretty obvious Finn Balor is not going to win this match. He's not going to win the Intercontinental Championship. But I don't believe Seth Rollins is going to win it either. I believe that The Miz is going to retain the Intercontinental Championship in this match here. And let me just say this: these three guys have already had a classic match on Raw before. So I believe if they execute this match well, this could be a really good match because they have had a great match on Raw before. It's sad that it got ruined by two interferences. This was back when they were fighting to become the number one contender for Dean Ambrose Intercontinental Championship. Back when Dean Ambrose was Intercontinental Championship champion, which goes way back to earlier last year, and the Miz had won the match due to interference from my man Samoa Joe and also Bray Wyatt. And that's the only thing that kind of killed the match here. But these three guys have had a good match before with the three of them, so it's interesting to see how this match is going to be. But I definitely believe, even though there's a lot of high stakes, that Seth Rollins is going to win the Intercontinental Championship, which Seth Rollins could win the Intercontinental Championship. But I for one believe that I believe that I believe that the Miz is going to retain the Intercontinental Championship. If there's one match that I think that the title is not going to change hands, I definitely believe that this is the one where the title is not going to change hands. I think the Miz is going to retain the Intercontinental Championship in order for him to cement his legacy of being one of the longest reigning Intercontinental champions. It would make no sense for them to drop the belt if they really want that to happen. If you keep mentioning it over and over again, so I kind of can see the Miz winning this one. Also because the Miz has not even won a match in the main card at WrestleMania since going back to WrestleMania 28, back when he was teaming with Team John Laurinaitis against Team Teddy Long. That's how far back it's been since he's won on the actual main card. Because the following year he had a pre-show match with Wade Barrett and he won the Intercontinental Championship in the pre-show match, but then dropped the belt the next night on Raw. So it's been a long time since the Miz has even won a match at WrestleMania on the main card. Um, so I think that this is probably the year that they definitely the year for the Miz to shine here. He's been doing an excellent job as the Intercontinental Champion. So I think this is definitely this is definitely going to end up being with the Miz winning a kind of championship. And who knows, maybe one of them will win the title after WrestleMania, but I just don't think at WrestleMania they're going to win the title here. So next up, we have Randy Orton versus Jinder Mahal versus Bobby Roode versus Rusev here. Rusev actually, for the U.S. title, Rusev actually recently added himself into this match, and now it's a fatal four way. It was a triple threat, but now it's a fatal four way. Let me just say this: the Rusev thing has really gotten over. It's one of the most talked about things right now in WWE. Rusev has really got himself over Rusev Day. I really don't get why he's still signified as a heel, but he gets babyface reactions. It's a lot of heels that's like that they're heels, but they get babyface reactions. But for him, like he's getting too much babyface reactions to the point where they might as well just turn on babyface because it nearly seems like he is one because it's like he's rooting for the crowd to say Rusev Day. So it's kind of like why if he's doing this he's still a heel. I just don't get it because he's even acting like a babyface in some aspects. Um, I'm gonna just say this here. I could see this match going one or two ways, and I'm gonna just say I definitely don't see Randy Orton retaining the United States title. I don't see that happening at all. Because in that case, he'll just be burying all of them. I don't see Randy Orton retaining the United States title at all. I can see either Jinder Mahal or Rusev being the guys to win the title. I definitely don't see Bobby Roode, winning it back, especially after he just had the title. I don't see Bobby Roode winning that title back. Um, I think this whole babyface thing with Bobby Roode is just it's just not working. I mean, really for him and Orton, it's not working. This is just to the point where Bobby Roode would do so much better as a heel. I don't see Bobby Roode winning that title back after he just had the title. I don't see him winning it back at WrestleMania. And I don't see Orton retaining it at WrestleMania either, especially when Randy Orton just won last year at WrestleMania. I don't see Randy Orton retaining the U.S. title. I think the only reason they gave it to him is just so they could say that he's won almost basically every title in WWE up to this point. I think that was the only reason they even gave him the title to begin with, which would kind of be a really cheesy, shady move because that would basically be saying that they used him as a transitional champion, which they have used a lot of guys like that where they're champion, but then they drop the belt a month later. And this is the same thing I see them doing with Orton. Orton won the title at Fastlane from Bobby Roode, but then he's going to drop the belt at WrestleMania. I don't see Orton retain this title at all. I'd be highly shocked if he does. I could see either Jinder Mahal shocking the world again, winning the U.S. title because somehow, in some way, I feel like they haven't completely given up on Jinder Mahal. I feel like even though the WWE Championship, even though that experiment ended, I feel like they haven't given up on Jinder Mahal. I feel like what they're trying to do now is do what they should have did in the first place, which is have him start as a mid carder and win that United States title and then work his way up to a main eventer. I think that's kind of what they're trying to do now at this point because Jinder Mahal has had Orton and Bobby Roode's number almost every week that they squared off, and he always ends up with the last laugh. So, and I think the only reason they put Rusev in here is just to give an excuse to have a match at WrestleMania on the main card. But like I said, the Rusev Day thing is getting over, and Vince, whenever there's something he really doesn't like to get over, he kind of try to find ways to shut it down. But I think in this predicament, either we're gonna see Bobby Roode, oh God, not Bobby Roode, either we're gonna see Rusev or we're gonna see Jinder Mahal win the United States title. But one thing I know for sure is that Randy Orton is definitely not retaining the United States title because at this point I just feel like they gave it to Orton just to have an excuse of him winning the title. But as far as him retaining it, it's pretty obvious that's not going to happen. I don't see that happening here. I can see Jinder or Rusev winning the title, no doubt. And if Rusev wins it, it'll be kind of good to elevate his career back because he hasn't been champion since 2016. That was the last time he was United States champion. After he lost it to Roman Reigns at Night of Champions that year, he just kind of went downhill since then. They just don't know what to do with Rusev at this point. So I think that'd be good for him. You'll hear a huge, huge Rusev Day chant if this man actually wins the United States title at WrestleMania. So I think either he's going to win the title or Jinder Mahal's going to win it, one of the two. Because Jinder Mahal was the final two last year at WrestleMania on the pre-show, the Battle Royal. It was between him and Mojo Rawley, which that didn't make any sense at all. Why they had Mojo Rawley win it? If they were going to do all this with Jinder Mahal, they must have should have just had Jinder Mahal win the Battle Royal and then work his way to being WWE champion. It just would have made more sense. But so like I said, yeah, man, I think Rusev or Jinder Mahal is definitely going to win the title. Next up, we have Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss here for the Raw Women's Championship. I'm going to be honest here. It'd be crazy to think that Alexa Bliss would be going to WrestleMania again as champion like she was last year, and then dropping the belt again at WrestleMania. But I think, like I said before, I think this WrestleMania is gonna be just like last year WrestleMania, where there's a bunch of title changes. I can see Nia Jax winning this title. Now, even storyline wise, this would make sense for Nia Jax to win the title because first of all, uh, Alexa Bliss. Excuse me, I'm not too good with pronouncing certain things. She's been champion for way too long. First of all, she won the title. This dates back to she won her second Raw Women's Championship about 2 weeks after SummerSlam with Sasha Banks on Raw. And she's been champion ever since. I mean, this woman has been champion for over 7 months up to this point. Um, let's see here. September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. No, it's been nearly 8 months now. It's been seven. Now it's going on 8 months. 7.5 months. She's been champion for almost 8 months. This woman has been the she's been the World Women's Champion. So she's pretty much carried the belt for the majority of this year and the majority of last year. She was champion, and she's and the only times that she really defended the belt was at the Hell in a Cell. Let's see, no, it wasn't Hell in a Cell because that was SmackDown. At the TLC pay per view, she defended the belt, and she defended the belt. It was a pay per view before that. I can't think of what pay per view that was because she defended it twice up until this year. She defended it. It was at the TLC pay per view because that's when she beat Mickie James. But then there was a pay per view before that. There was like a Fatal 5-Way women's match where she retained the title. I just can't think of what pay per view that was. But she defended it twice last year because the Survivor Series match, obviously her title wasn't on the line. So really most of this time she's been champion here. She's just been kind of holding the belt. And I just don't, I kind of find the story here between Nia and Alexa kind of weird here because we all thought that their friendship had originally ended uh, the night that she first won the belt because Nia Jax had picked her up and had her on her shoulder, and then she dropped her, making it seem like she was setting up a match between the two. But then after they had the match, they became friends again. So it's like they've had an on and off thing going on with the storyline here. I don't really get why it didn't just end then. I kind of I'm kind of confused on why they exactly got back together after that, because that really was like the turning point there when that happened. Oh, it was No Mercy. That's what I was like. What was it? It was No Mercy. That's what it was. It took me a while to think about it. Yeah, so she defended the title at No Mercy. This is when Nia Jax first turned on Alexa Bliss. So she defended the title at No Mercy. That was like a fatal 5 match with the women's, and she did retain the title then, and then she retained it at Hell in a Cell against Mickie James. Then after that, she just didn't defend it again up until this year. So that's what happened. Because if you think about it, she's really only defended that title 3 times on pay per view, 2 times last year, and then this year when it was time for the Elimination Chamber, she defended it then, but she's only defended the title 3 times. So it was just kind of weird how leading up to No Mercy, Nia had turned on her, and then after No Mercy, they were best friends again. It was just kind of weird. So it was like you thought that the story ended then, but it didn't. So I think that the build up to this has been kind of weird to say the least, because it seems like they couldn't make up their mind on if Nia was gonna be with her or not was gonna be with her. But I think that Nia Jax is probably going to win the Raw Women's Championship. I mean, I do believe it is her time up to this point. Like I said, Alexa Bliss has been hogging the Raw Women's Championship for far too long. There's a lot of people that's not big fans of Nia Jax. There's a lot of people who kind of crap on Nia Jax and say stuff about her weight and stuff like that. And I mean, her move set is pretty low to say the least. She doesn't have a lot of moves she using her move set here, but I do think that this is Nia Jax's time to win the Raw Women's Championship. She's been waiting for far too long. I think this is definitely her time to win it. I don't see a reason why Alexa Bliss needs to win again, even though this would be like the second loss at WrestleMania for her. I don't see a reason why Alexa Bliss needs to retain the title at WrestleMania. It'd be kind of shady if she does. I think that Nia Jax is going to win it here. This storyline wise, this would make sense because this kind of say that after everything they've been through, after the on-off relationship these two have had, finally Nia Jax was able to capture Raw Women's Championship, which many people believe she should have won at No Mercy, but that wasn't going to happen. So I think at this time WrestleMania, it would make more sense for her to win the belt. Now, as it pertains to what happens after WrestleMania, it's a whole other story. They do need a lot more women on Raw and SmackDown for that matter, because it's just sad that there's not enough women on both shows, and that's why we keep seeing the same matches over and over again, getting repetitive and redundant. But Nia Jax, I definitely can see her winning the belt here. I just don't see Alexa Bliss retain. I think this is definitely Nia Jax's time to win the belt. Next up, we have Charlotte versus Asuka here. Now, there's a heavy rumor that for the SmackDown Women's Championship, there's a heavy rumor that Carmella could possibly come out and cash in the SmackDown's her women's Money in the Bank contract. And I think that that would be the best move that they could possibly pull at WrestleMania here. Even though this move was already done with Seth Rollins in the male category, I think this would be the best way to end Asuka's undefeated streak because it's pretty obvious Asuka is going to win the SmackDown Women's Championship. I don't even have to really predict on this one. It's just pretty obvious that Asuka's going to win the title. But I think the best way for her streak to end is for it to be a match where her and Charlotte have a really good match. And when the match is over, Asuka can barely stand. And this would have to work. This does not need to be a thing where Carmella comes out and then her cash in fails the same way Baron Corbin's cash in failed. It doesn't need to be that way. This actually needs to work. This needs to be like a hard fighting match between Charlotte and Asuka to the point where even when Asuka wins the belt, she can barely stand. And from there, Carmella could cash in and win the Raw SmackDown's Women's Championship. I think that would be the best way to go here for this match. There's a lot of people saying that she could win it and then they put it on Raw, but I don't see the point in them doing that here. I think that this is Carmella's time to shine with how long she's held that Money in the Bank contract because it would kind of say if she's not going to cash in at WrestleMania, then when the heck is she going to cash it in? Because you can't hold it for so much longer. This is the same thing Edge did when he was the first ever Money in the Bank winner. He held the Money in the Bank contract for almost a year, but then he cashed it in against a weakened John Cena after John Cena had just been in an Elimination Chamber match. So this I think this is definitely the time here for Carmella to cash in the Money in the Bank contract. And the way to do it would be Charlotte and Asuka have a really good match. And as soon as Asuka wins the belt, Asuka can barely stand to hold her belt. And then Carmella just comes out of nowhere and cash in. Because this would, not only would this be a huge moment for Carmella, but it would be a shocking moment in WWE history because it'd be the first time someone actually pinned and beat Asuka and ended her undefeated streak. Because all this talk about her undefeated streak, it's always when the person loses that is the most shocking moment in WWE history. When The Undertaker's undefeated streak ended at WrestleMania where Brock Lesnar beat him the last time we were in New Orleans at WrestleMania 30, that was the most shocking moment that had ever taken place because no one had expected it. This would be a shocking moment too because this is an undefeated streak she's been having for nearly 3 years now. If she could come out and break this undefeated streak, because I do want to see Asuka undefeated streak end, because first of all, for as long as she's been undefeated, she's only beat, according to what they show in the vignette about her, she's only beaten 35 women. That's not to say the least. That's not really making you a good competitor if you only beat 35 actual different women. That just basically says that the only reason you're undefeated is because you've beaten the same 35 women multiple times. Had she actually beaten more women than that, then her undefeated streak would mean something. But the fact that she's beaten the same amount of women time and time again, that does not mean anything. And not to mention, she's facing a bunch of local competitors. Most of the time she was on Raw, facing a bunch of jobbers that was just jobbing out to her. So I really, this undefeated streak thing has got to end. It really annoys me week after week after week. How they say, "Oh my God, if this happens, her streak is in jeopardy. Her streak is in jeopardy. Her streak is in jeopardy." Like, you say this week after week after week, and the same thing happens. The same result happens. The closest person I would have thought that could have beaten Oscar's that could have ended her undefeated streak was when she faced Sasha Banks. That episode on Raw, that was just one of the best matches I had seen Oscar having a long time on Raw, um, and yet it didn't happen. And even her match with Bayley was pretty good that she had against Bayley on Raw, but even Bayley can beat her, and Bayley has already lost to her before. So I just, at this point, I think that if they're not gonna have anyone on Raw, anybody on SmackDown actually beat her, then the only way for her streak to end is by simply having her win the belt and then her be voluble to the point where she can't move, and then Carmella comes out and cashes in, because Carmella needs her moment too, because it would be two different moments here. Asuka would win the SmackDown Women's Championship, and then she would just lose it directly after winning it to Carmella. A lot of people are saying if she wins it, will she go to Raw? But I don't think there's a need for her to go to Raw. She could easily win the title and still be on SmackDown Live. I mean, that I think that's definitely the way to go here. Carmella cashes in the Money in the Bank briefcase, and then she wins the SmackDown Women's Championship. I think that's the way to go here. It's the smartest way to go here. There's just no reason why Asuka's undefeated streak needs to continue any further. The whole purpose of her undefeated streak, as far as the main roster, was just to have her win the Raw Women's Championship to begin with. The not Raw, but just to win the championship to begin with. Because at first they had us thinking that she was going to face Alexa Bliss at WrestleMania, but now she's going to face Charlotte instead, which storyline wise makes more sense given that the build up they had with Nia Jackson and Alexa Bliss for all these months. So it makes more sense that she's going against Charlotte here. So like I said, it's pretty obvious Charlotte is not going to retain the title. It's sad on Charlotte's behalf because we kind of showed it. She was champion for this long just to drop the belt for Oscar. But at the same time, if you're gonna have, if your whole plan was to have her win at WrestleMania the title and to keep her undefeated for that long, then the best way to break her streak is by having her lose to Carmella. And it would kind of say a lot because up to that point, it wouldn't really be a big talk about her anymore if her streak ends at WrestleMania here. And I think it definitely needs to end at WrestleMania. It doesn't need to go any further. If they have Asuka win the belt and nothing happens afterwards, that's just going to be completely pointless. I'm just going to be blunt about that. That would be completely pointless for Carmella to even hold the briefcase if she's not going to cash in at WrestleMania up to this point. Next up, and I'm not even going to talk about this match, really. I'm just going to mention it here. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns for the Universal title. This is why I mentioned it earlier. Everyone knows that Roman Reigns is going to win the title. I mean, that's all I'm going to say about it. Everyone knows Roman Reigns is going to win the title. Roman Reigns is going to win the Universal title. I'm not really sure why this is the main event. To be quite honest, I don't even think a title match, and it's not to say they don't deserve it, because believe me, most people who win, most title matches, depending on who win the Royal Rumble, whatever, they deserve to be in the main event. But I don't think all the time, depending on what's going on that year, a title match should be in the main event. I think, like, for example, at WrestleMania 18, there was a lot of talk of how Triple H even Chris Jericho, they were saying how The Rock and Hulk Hogan should have been the main event of WrestleMania. Instead of them two main event, it should have been them two. Even though that would have took away from the undisputed title match. I mean, I don't think a title match should always be the main event of WrestleMania, depending on what's going on that year. But it does deserve to be the main event of WrestleMania because that's the whole purpose. But I don't think it always needs to be the main event of WrestleMania because just look at last year, Roman Reigns versus Undertaker wasn't even a title match, and that was the main event of WrestleMania. That match wasn't even a title match, and it was the main event of WrestleMania. And even when you go to WrestleMania 26, I believe the main event was actually Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels when it was Street versus Career, and that wasn't a title match. So I don't think a title match always needs to be the main event of WrestleMania, and it's been proven that the title match isn't always the main event of WrestleMania. It was just proven last year. Um, I honestly, if I were to be honest here, I think Daniel Bryan and I think some people can agree with this. I think Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon versus Kevin Owens and Sami. I think that honestly should be the main event of WrestleMania. Not even. I don't even think AJ and Nakamura should be the main event. I think that should be second to last. But I truly think that because only reason why I say that is because it's like Daniel Bryan's big return match, and even though I'll get to that in a moment. But like I said, this match here Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. I mean, there's not much to say about it. It's pretty obvious that Brock Lesnar is going to lose the belt because there's been a lot of talk about him going back to UFC. And I'll be honest here. Now, compared to Brock Lesnar's title reign in 2014-2015 year, um, he has defended the title a lot more this time around. Like when he won the belt against Goldberg, he has defended it a lot more. He defended it against my man Samoa Joe and beat him at Great Balls of Fire. He defended it at SummerSlam in the Fatal 4-Way match with Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, and Braun Strowman. He defended it against Braun Strowman at No Mercy. But, at the same time, the issue that I have with a lot of these defended matches, all except now AJ Styles, of course, he didn't defend his title. He just faced AJ Styles because it was a Raw versus SmackDown thing. But it's like, with all these title defenses he's had, the matches have just been mediocre to say the least. I mean, my goodness, every single match, the result has been the same. Just the same thing over and over again that we see Brock Lesnar do. Brock Lesnar, he I'll give him this. I'll give him that he has put the title on the line a lot more in this title reign because the first title reign he had when he was WWE World Heavyweight Championship champion 2014, he only defended the title 3 times and that was it. He did not defend it more than that many times. Like he only defended the title 3 times. This time around, when he won the Universal title, he's actually defended this title about I believe 4 times. Because let's see, Great Balls of Fire, SummerSlam, No Mercy, and then the Royal Rumble. So he's defended it 4 times, which is way more times that he put the title on the line when he was champion back in that era. That era, the one issue I had with that was even though he was more dominant, the problem I had was the fact that he only put the title on the line 2 times. But this time he actually put the title on the line 4 times, and he was actually more on pay per view than he was that time around. And that year, he actually participated in every single big pay per view. So like I said, I don't get a reason. I mean, at this point, Brock Lesnar has pretty much accomplished everything he needs to accomplish here. He's won the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. He won the Universal Championship. So at this point, it's pretty safe to say that Brock Lesnar is done with WWE. I don't think there's a reason he needs to come back at this point. Even though he's like one of the highest paid people, this is one of the reasons why we don't even have people come out with pyros anymore because of how much money they're paying him just to have a freaking match. I mean, my goodness, we don't even see pyros and it just looks so awkward because of him. So at this point, we could definitely agree that Brock Lesnar just needs to hang it up. I mean, this has nothing to do with Roman Reigns personally. Like I said, as a performer, Roman Reigns is doing his job. It's the way that he's being booked. It's just ridiculous that this is the main event. I really don't get why this is the main event. Like I said, I don't think a title match always has to be the main event of WrestleMania. It was proven last year, but even that match, it was pretty obvious they only made that the main event to retire the Undertaker. But like I said, I just I think it's just time for Brock to hang it up. I think after this, there's everybody's saying he's going back to UFC, but no, he really needs. If he's gonna go to UFC, he needs to stay in UFC. He does not need to come back. He needs to be done because this is not working. I'm getting sick of his matches being the same thing over and over again. It's to the point where that's all he does in his matches. He has no other move set other than that. And this goes further back to just last year. This goes back to 2016 as well, because even in 2016, his matches were pretty much the same. And a lot of people shitted on his match with Dean Ambrose. Dean Ambrose was disappointed with him about that match because of how disappointed it was. I mean, last time I could really say Brock really had a good match really dates back to that 2015 year when he was feuding with Undertaker. That was really the last time he really had a really, really decent match. I mean, he had, like I said, he had a good match with AJ Styles in Survivor Series, but that's only because he actually had AJ Styles take it to him. And, he had a good match at SummerSlam, even though he wasn't even in half of the match because he got power slammed through a table twice. The Fatal 4 match was the only thing that made it good. The Royal Rumble match he had this year was just awful with Kane and Braun Strowman. That was just really a bad match. So I really, up to this point, not only do I think he needs to just be done, but I think they need to completely stop this whole part timers winning the belt. It's taken away from all the full time wrestlers. It was even last year's a perfect example when John Cena won the belt and then dropped it at the Elimination Chamber. I just don't get why they think that even if this is a money thing, they just need to completely stop with this whole part timing thing. At this point, not only does Brock Lesnar need to just go and leave, but this needs to be the last part time champion that we have as Universal Champion. Because Goldberg, when he was champion, that was just a disaster. And Brock Lesnar is really not much different. So I think at this point, obviously Roman Reigns is going to win the belt, but Roman Reigns needs to, when Roman Reigns drops the belt, it needs to be someone that's a full time wrestler. He drops it to, not a part timer. This whole part time experience up to this point just needs to end. They've got to stop with this whole part timing thing. I'm not a fan of it. I think that this just needs to end at this point. It's just getting ridiculous. It all started. I want to say that it all started when The Rock won the WWE Championship from CM Punk. He was like one of the first part timers to come back and win the belt. And then from there, they did it with Brock Lesnar. Then they did it with Goldberg. I mean, I'm just getting sick of seeing these part timers win the belt and then dropping it like not long after. It's just kind of dumb here. But that's the only thing I'm really going to say about that match because we already know Roman Reigns is going to win the belt and it's the main event, which I don't really get why, but I'm not really complaining because it is what it is. I'll just see how the match is going to go here compared to how it was last time around they squared off. Next up, we got AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura for the WWE Championship. This is another match that's pretty obvious who's going to win here. It's pretty obvious that Shinsuke Nakamura is going to beat AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. There's just no other way of looking at it. Like I said, this is one of those WrestleManias, just like last year, where there were multiple title changes. And at this point, I've counted that the U.S. title, the Raw Women's Championship, and the SmackDown Women's Championship, and now in the Universal title, WWE Championship, there's going to be this is literally like the fifth title change that I believe is going to happen at WrestleMania. Uh, and if you add the pre-show, that's even another. Well, that's not really considered a title change because neither one of them are champions. But like I said, this is already nearly 5 title changes that I'm mentioning here for WrestleMania. 5 matches that are going to be title changes here. I believe it's pretty obvious Shinsuke Nakamura is going to win the belt. And let me just say this: I think that this build-up has been quite unique. A lot of people might not agree with me on this, but I actually think Shinsuke Nakamura is getting better on the mic. I think it's getting a little bit better to understand him. Compared to how Oscar talks on Raw, I think when Shinsuke Nakamura speaks now, the fact that he's taking his time more now when he talks to the mic, it's a lot better to understand him now. And this whole thing about I'm gonna beat you at WrestleMania, he keeps saying to AJ Styles, then he'll say knee to face. I think it was kind of clever last SmackDown on last Tuesday night when he came out, and it looked like he was gonna hit AJ Styles with the with the God, what the heck is his finisher? The King Shasa. It looked like he was gonna hit him with that, and then he just stopped, and then he just said knee to face. I think that that's kind of clever for him because he's like playing mind games with AJ Styles, which I really do like because this is a babyface versus babyface feud, but you don't want to make it where it's all about I respect you and I do this and I do that. You want to make it where they actually going to have tension with each other, and this is like a really funny tension that these two guys have had here, uh, because ever since he's won the Royal Rumble, he constantly will come to AJ Styles and say that he's gonna beat him at WrestleMania, and he is. I mean, it's pretty obvious that that Shinsuke Nakamura is going to beat AJ Styles at WrestleMania. It's kind of sad for AJ Styles because it's like the one WrestleMania he does come as champion, he drops the belt still. Because last year he would have came as champion if he hadn't lost to Cena, and now this year he's going to come as champion and then drop the belt. So it's kind of sad looking at it that way. But there are rumors that AJ Styles is going to be retiring soon, and I think that him dropping the belt could probably slowly lead to him doing that. I don't think he's going to retire immediately this year, but there are rumors that he's going to retire pretty soon. Now, this is not even rumors. This is actually something he said himself because, he was saying that after all these years he's been wrestling, his wife didn't hasn't liked one bit of it. And he kind of wants to just at this point slowly get to the point where he's just chill with his wife, being with his kid and stuff like that. He's been married for years now, and his wife just wants him to come home. So I love AJ Styles. AJ Styles. Some people say he's overrated, which I mean you can kind of say he is, but I love AJ Styles. I watched some of his matches in TNA when he was in TNA. Some of them I looked at. I didn't look at a lot of them that people all know, like that. I think the No Surrender one he had. It was something like that in 2005 with Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson or whatever his name was. I looked at that match. That it was a really good match. It was actually an excellent match. AJ Styles had a lot of great matches. I didn't look at anything he did in Ring of Honor or anything like that. But like I said, AJ Styles, he is the phenomenal one. Obviously, this match is going to be a classic if they book it right. Worst thing I want them to do is have all this hype, but then they don't actually make this match live up to its expectations. Because it's been proven in the past that some dream matches that they have don't always live up to the hype, but in most cases they do. I mean, when The Rock and Cena first faced each other, it was a lot better than their second time facing each other. Their first match they had against each other was actually really good compared to their second match. Their second match was kind of like the battle of finishers, but their first match was actually really good. So I think now there's a thing I've seen about AJ hiding an injury here. That's kind of why he hasn't really done anything in this feud with Shinsuke. That's kind of why he hasn't really struck at Shinsuke or anything because they were like he's kind of hiding an injury here. Um, I mean, I really like his. The man is getting old, so him and Cena are actually about the same age. I think Cena's older or he's older, something like that, because they're both gonna be 41 this month. They're both gonna be about 41 this month. So one of them is older than the other, but they're about the same age. They're both like 40 now, so it is getting old. So I'm not really surprised that he's hurt or whatever. But I think this match will deliver. I think this match will live up to his expectations if they book it right. I think, like I said, the storyline has actually been very creative between the two, with Shinsuke playing mind games with AJ Styles. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen tonight on SmackDown Live between those two. Because the first time that AJ got beat down, I believe it was by Rusev. Yeah, it was by Rusev and Englishman when he got beat down by them two. And Shinsuke helped him. He told him I didn't need your help. And then when Shinsuke and Shinsuke just watched him get beat for a while before he got off before he actually came to help him. And then the next SmackDown, because this is actually when AJ beat Rusev on SmackDown. Because first he's at a match, but then he just stopped. This is when he beat Rusev on SmackDown. I believe this is actually the SmackDown after Fastlane. And then the next SmackDown when Rusev went against Shinsuke, Shinsuke beat him, and then they came out and AJ came out and kind of waited for a while to help Shinsuke. And then when he was about to help him, Shinsuke fought for himself, and he told him he didn't need his help. And it was funny how last last week on SmackDown he told AJ to come to commentary. He wanted AJ to be in his corner, but he was like he only had him come to his corner so he could show him what he was going to do to him at WrestleMania. Needs a face, and like I said, I think that's kind of creative for them to do it this way. Um, Even though the supremacy, it's a shame that this storyline here isn't even the main story on SmackDown. And that's why a lot of people have said that AJ's second reign as WWE Champion has really been disappointing because honestly, the whole time he's been champion, the story hasn't even been on him. You would have thought that after Jinder Mahal lost the belt, that the WWE Championship was going to be more in the main card level, but sadly, even with Jinder Mahal losing the belt, the title still isn't the main talk on SmackDown. That title is still like a mid card championship because they haven't even put the full focus on the WWE Championship, even with AJ Styles being WWE Champion for as long as he has. It's really a shame that it's like that it's been this way, even with someone with AJ Styles at this caliber to be champion. So I could even say one or two things happening here. I could see Sensei winning and them having a rematch, maybe a backlash, whatever pay per views after WrestleMania, or excuse me, guys. So like I said, excuse me for that, but like I said, AJ, as long as he's been champion, it just seems like as long as he's been champion, the focus has not been on WWE Championship on SmackDown Live. The focus has really all been about Kevin and Sammy for this long that he's been champion. It has not been on AJ Styles. So even with him winning the belt, it really didn't really change anything. Because even as champion, you saw the last pay per views about Kevin and Sammy. It's been about them, and it's kind of like why not have one of them champion if you're going to put the focus more on them. So, like I said, the story between AJ and Shinsuke has been kind of creative here. It's pretty obvious Shinsuke is going to win the belt, and I guess pretty soon we'll see when exactly AJ Styles is going to retire here. Um, we'll see when he's going to retire. I don't know exactly when he's going to do it, but it's probably going to be pretty soon. But you never know. Next up, you have the Bar versus Braun Strowman and his mystery tag team partner, Sheamus Cesaro versus Braun Strowman versus mystery tag team partner for the Raw Tag Team Championship. Now, I like how. Um, Let me just say this. I obviously think that this is going to be another title change. So you might as well say this is the sixth title change that I believe is going to happen at WrestleMania. Um, I like how Braun would kind of fool them into revealing his tag team partner, but not having him come out. Because had he actually shown who his tag team partner was going to be on Raw, it would kind of kill it for WrestleMania. Like, we all want to know who his tag team partner is going to be, but you don't want it to happen on Raw right before WrestleMania. That would kind of kill the vibe of it because then at WrestleMania, the reaction is not going to be big. You want to save the character, you want to save his actual partner for WrestleMania so that when they show his partner, there's like a huge reaction compared to actually showing his partner now. So then when WrestleMania comes, we don't see his partner. Because it was funny last night on Raw when Braun Strowman said he was going to show his tag team partner, but then he basically just dressed up as a second version of himself and said he was Braun Strowman as like the brother, twin brother, whatever. It was funny. And then the Raw before this one, he actually had a match with Sheamus, and he was like he had told him his tag team partner if he could beat him, and obviously that didn't happen. So he's been playing games with Sheamus and Cesaro week after week, saying that they do this, he'll show him the partner, whatever. He'll tell him who the tag team partner is. He'd be like, "I got my partner," whatever. There were big things going around at first that Bray Wyatt was actually going to team up with Braun Strowman, but of course that didn't happen. But of course, I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Bray Wyatt is going to be his partner, even though Bray Wyatt desperately does need to be on a card, because it's a shame that he was just WWE champion last year and he was on the card, and this year he doesn't even have a match on the card at all, unless they put him in the Andre the Giant Memorial, which even that's bad because he'd be on a pre-show. For the first time, Bray Wyatt doesn't even have a match at WrestleMania, so this is just kind of crazy that Bray Wyatt doesn't even have a match at WrestleMania this year. That's just insane. Like the man is already 0-3 at WrestleMania. He's lost 3 times at WrestleMania, and this year he doesn't even have a match. I mean, come on, he's not injured. I don't know what in the world they're doing with Bray Wyatt. And there was a big talk about him and Braun reuniting and him being Braun's mystery tag team partner. But let me just say this: I don't think Rey Mysterio is going to be the person. I mean, there is a talk that Rey's injured, he's recovering from injury. But even so, Ray wouldn't be his partner because Ray just came back to the Royal Rumble and it was a one-time deal. And it wouldn't make sense for him to be Braun's partner considering people have already seen Ray come back at the Royal Rumble. So it would kind of be like the reaction to see him again at WrestleMania wouldn't really be as big as it would be to see him as the reaction was when he came to Royal Rumble, because the reaction to Royal Rumble was amazing when he came back. It was just amazing. But if he came back again to WrestleMania, it wouldn't be a huge reaction because the fans would have already seen him. So obviously that's out the door. I don't know who Braun's tag team partner is going to be. Mystery tag team partner is going to be. There's a high talk that Neville could possibly return to be his tag team partner, which I think that would be shocking for a lot of people. Because first of all, that would be good for Neville because Neville would finally be able to be on the main card of WrestleMania. But also, I don't think anyone would expect Neville to be his tag team partner at all. I don't think anyone would expect for Neville to be his tag team partner. So I'm anxious to see who his tag team partner is going to be just as much as everybody else is here. I think we're finally going to get our answer at WrestleMania because he has to have a tag team partner. So we're finally going to get our answer at WrestleMania. I'm not really trying to look at the dirt sheets or anything that's going to reveal who it is. I kind of just want it to be a shocking moment of who it is. Um, like last year when the Hardy Boys came back and made their shocking return, I think this would be a very shocking pick. Hopefully, someone that the fans just explode for. He makes his return back to WrestleMania here. So, like I said, the story's been hilarious. I just be laughing when I see it here. Honestly, I think the Bar versus Braun Strowman and his mystery tag team partner, I could definitely see Braun Strowman his mystery tag team partner winning the belt because I will say this: I like how they've had the Bar look strong here. I think this is a good way for Sheamus to go out the door. You know, it's not really it's heavily it's been big talks about Sheamus. I know I said about AJ Styles retiring soon, but even Sheamus, there's been talk about him retiring soon, and I think the best way for Sheamus to retire would be they drop the belts at WrestleMania, and then either at WrestleMania or after the night after WrestleMania, he just completely just leaves WWE. And it will be kind of different with Sheamus not being in WWE. I'm not gonna lie, because I actually kind of like the Bar. I actually like the Bar. They've had some really classic, great matches together as a team, and this is the best shape that Cesaro's ever gotten in. It's because of the Bar that Cesaro really got his career to pick back up. Because Cesaro, before the Bar even formed, he was having great matches, but they weren't putting a belt on him. And ever since the Bar formed, he's actually been able to win the tag team championship with Sheamus. So I think the Bar has really helped Cesaro in a lot of ways because it really helped both of their careers in a lot of ways. Because before the Bar formed, not too long before that, Sheamus was a part of that whole the League of Nations thing, and that was just a complete disaster because that just was not going to work. I mean, it was pretty obvious all of them was going to break up as a team. That was the last team he was with before that, and then after that, he kept feuding with Cesaro up until they started teaming together. So I just think that I think that Sheamus and Cesaro, I think that them forming together was the best thing for both of their careers. And I think that, because there's been a lot of talk about Sheamus retiring soon, I think that this is probably the way that he's going to leave by them dropping the belt because they've had a lot of a lot of times now where they'll lose, and it's like a lot of collisions with each other. And they've been teaming together now for almost 2 years exactly. So it's kind of sad to think they'll be at another WrestleMania and lose again at WrestleMania teaming together, but they wouldn't be the first team to do it here. But I definitely think that these guys are going to lose, are definitely going to drop the belts at WrestleMania. Braun Strowman and whoever his mystery tag team partner is, because I mean I see it benefiting both ways. I see this as, even though it'd be bad that Cesaro will be losing another WrestleMania because he hasn't won one since WrestleMania 30, and Sheamus hasn't won one since WrestleMania 32 up to this point. Even though he'll be losing another WrestleMania, I think that at least a good thing that comes out of this is the fact that by Braun Strowman winning the Raw tag team champion with whoever his tag team partner is, he'll finally have a title that he would have won in WWE, which is something that I really wish my man's would have Samoa Joe, but he keeps getting hurt. So that I think that's the good thing about it, is that he would have a title finally to say he won a belt. So that would be the good thing about it. Um, so I would definitely say Braun Strowman, whoever's mystery tag team partner, they're gonna win the belt here. Next up, we have um, we have the Usos versus the New Day versus the Bludgeon Brothers for the SmackDown Tag Team Championship. Now, let me just say this: I'm so glad that the Usos are actually going to be on the main card, because the Usos, as they said, it's been for about 6 years now, and they've been in WWE and they have not been on the main card. These guys, every single WrestleMania, actually no, they've been in WWE for about 8 years. Let's see, 2010 was when they first burst on the scene. They've been in WWE for about 8 years, and they've never been on the main card. Every single year that they've wrestled WrestleMania, it's been on the pre-show. And it's sad. It's sad that it took them this long to actually be put on the main card. So first of all, I want to say that I'm glad that the Usos are on the main card. I'm glad that these guys are actually going to be on the main card here. Also, I'm glad that the New Day is actually on the card this year, because last year they were the host of WrestleMania, so they didn't even have a match. Now, sadly for the New Day, I feel bad for the fact that every WrestleMania they've had together, they've never won. Like, they've lost all of them. I really do feel bad about that, because I really wish they could have won one WrestleMania together. If anything, they could have beat the League of Nations at WrestleMania 32. But every WrestleMania they've had together, they've lost. Sadly, it's pretty obvious that the New Day are going to lose this match. They're definitely not going to win the titles back. And I think the Bludgeon Brothers, they will get their time, but I do truly think that this is the Usos' time. I think that the Usos are definitely going to retain the titles at WrestleMania, and I think shortly after they're going to drop the belts to the Bludgeon Brothers. I don't think they're going to immediately drop the belts at WrestleMania. I think the Usos are going to retain the title just to give them the WrestleMania moment. If booked right, I think they're going to have the Usos retain to give the Usos the WrestleMania moment. And then after that, they're probably going to drop the belts either the next night after WrestleMania on SmackDown next Tuesday, or they're going to drop it on the next pay per view or something like that. And then when they have the next Superstar Shakeup, they're gonna put the Usos on Raw. And that's what I can see happening here, because the Usos has pretty much done everything there is to do on SmackDown Live. They've won the SmackDown Tag Team titles 3 times since being on SmackDown Live. Um, Altogether, they're 5-time SmackDown. They're 5-time tag team champions altogether. They won the SmackDown tag team titles 3 times, which makes them 5-time tag team champions. So the Usos have pretty much done it all here. The Usos have done it all. They have nothing to be ashamed of. So I think that when the Usos go to WrestleMania here, they're going to definitely I think they're definitely going to retain. This is only the second title that I believe is not going to change hands. Because I already said there's going to be about 6 title changes at WrestleMania, but I don't think this title is going to change hands. I think that the Usos are going to retain, even though the Bludgeon Brothers are high to win. Even though Bludgeon Brothers, it's kind of sad for them too, because they've never, particularly particularly Eric Roman, has never won a title since being in WWE. Luke Harper was an Intercontinental Champion for a short period of time. But as dominant as these guys were in 2014, as classic matches they have the Usos been, to think that they never won the tag team title as good as their matches with the Usos were then, because those are some amazing matches. Um, I think at this point, this is going to be the Bludgeon Brothers' time to shine after WrestleMania. I don't think they should win it at WrestleMania. I think they should win it after WrestleMania. And they'll probably have the New Day be the guys to take the pin. They probably won't have the Bludgeon Brothers take the pin. They'll probably have the New Day be the guys to take the pin just to make them look strong. I could see them doing something like that. But I don't think that the Bludgeon Brothers are going to win the belt this early at WrestleMania. They could shockingly win it, but I think it would be more smarter to have the Usos retain WrestleMania just so they can get to the WrestleMania moment to finally say that we had our match at WrestleMania. We had a match on the main card WrestleMania, which they have yet to do. So I think it's safe to say that the Usos are going to retain the tag team titles at WrestleMania, and then they're probably going to drop the belts the next night on Raw shortly after. The Bludgeon Brothers might challenge them or something, and then they'll probably drop the belts, and then they'll probably go to Monday Night Raw after that. Because it's just, unless they're going to bring more teams, what they are to SmackDown Live. There's just nothing else they could really do with the Usos on SmackDown Live. They could, but I love the Usos being on SmackDown. I don't want to see them go to Raw because when Rhino and Slater went to Raw, look what happened with them. They're basically jobbers at this point. They still are really good, but they're basically jobbers. And I kind of feel like if the Usos go to Raw, they kind of would do the same thing, try to make them like jobbers, which wouldn't make sense as dominant as they've been on SmackDown. So that's kind of the problem I have with that. But I definitely see them going to Raw after WrestleMania or something like that. To probably throw them on Raw, knowing how they are with Superstar Shake. It'd be stupid of them to put the New Day on Raw because they just put them on SmackDown last year. But I think the Usos are going to be on Raw. So that's what you have with that. Could definitely see the Usos retaining. And the last match I would say here, I know this video has been going very long. I know half people wouldn't watch all the way through, but last match I would say here for WrestleMania, because I put this last because I really was not going to go in order here. Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. The stipulation of if Kevin Owens and Sami win, they'll be rehired. As big as this match is for Daniel Bryan, because this is his first match coming back from last time he had a match was early 2015. It's been 3 years since he had a match. So this is huge for Daniel Bryan. This is huge for Shane McMahon. As huge as a moment this is, I kind of feel like unless you're gonna do something where you put Kevin and Sami back on Raw, which would kind of make it completely pointless of putting them on SmackDown in the first place. Because I feel like at this point, if Kevin and Sami lose and they're fired, then that means they're gonna put them on Raw. They're gonna put them back on Monday Night Raw. Because up to that point, I just don't see them being on anything else. Shane McMahon, ever since he came back, he lost both his WrestleManias. He lost last year. He lost the year before, The Undertaker. I think this match, I feel like I could be the first to say that because it's Daniel Bryan's big return match, that him and Shane are going to win the match. But at the same time, I can only see that happening if they're going to put them back on Raw. If this is a thing where they win, but they're not back on Raw, it's going to be really weird. So I think that as big as a return match is, I feel like they may, because there's a huge chance that Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon could win, but they may have Kevin, the same way how I said earlier about the Stephanie and Triple H thing. I kind of feel like they may have Kevin and Sami win just so they can get rehired to kind of put an end to this feud. And this feud does need to end because despite Daniel Bryan, this feud, as far as Shane McMahon and Kevin goes, This goes back to the summertime. So this feud definitely needs to be put to an end because this has been going on since the United States title thing. Since that scene was going on, this feud has been going on for way too long. They need to put this feud to an end from the time of Shane being a special guest referee to the time of, Kevin headbutting Vince McMahon and power, you know, doing a frog splash on him. It's just been ridiculous. This feud has got to end. It's been going on for far too long. I mean, it was good while it lasted, but it's really taken away from the main card, the main title here. It's like they're making Kevin and Sammy seem like the main supremacists here. Because even at Hell in a Cell, when Sammy first turned heel and actually helped Kevin Owens, this is what put Sammy in the mix. I mean, this feud has been going on for far too long. I think at this point they definitely need to have them just win the belts or something. Not win the belts. What am I talking about? Either have them win the match or something, just so they can get on and move on with their lives. Because this is like, I mean, you just had Kevin Owens, uh, wrestle for the United States title last year and beat Chris Jericho, and this is the way that you put him on the card. I mean, I don't get it, man. I think Kevin and Sammy, the way the story is going, they could possibly win here. I mean there's a high solidity chance that Daniel and Shane McMahon will win. But like I said, I mean that kind of leaves the question of what you're gonna do with Kevin and Sammy if you're gonna have them win. I mean, what are you gonna do? So I mean that's just my thing about that here. I think it can go either way, but at the same time, I don't know. I just think that this feud is definitely the end here. We just need to move on. I'm glad to see Dan Bryan back wrestling, but this feud has got to end. So that's just pretty much it here as far as the main card matches. All of the 10 there are 10 matches here in the main card. There are 13 matches altogether. There are 10 matches in the main card. Like I said, The Undertaker and Josh, that's whole other thing. The Andre the Giant Memorial. Honestly, don't care who win that. As far as pre-show matches, I don't talk about pre-show matches because I don't even care who wins that match, because it's been proven that even if you win it, it does not elevate your career. They make it seem like the Andre the Giant Memorial really does something to your career, and it doesn't. Baron Corbin did not win the United States title until last year. He won the Andre Memorial in 2016. Didn't win a single title, until last year, and he barely held it for that long. That doesn't do anything to your career. Cesaro won the Andre Giant Memorial, and he didn't even win a title that whole year. So that whole talk about the Andre Giant Memorial does something to your career. It really doesn't. And then the Women's Battle Royal. I mean, this is the first time it's happening. I really can't say much about that. I really don't really care much about that. Even though I would like to see the last two be Sasha and Bailey here, because it's ridiculous they don't have a one-on-one match at WrestleMania on the main card. It's actually ridiculous that after Sasha was just on the main card two WrestleManias in a row, and then this year she was on a pre-show. Same thing for Bailey. She was just on the main card. Was just the Raw Women's Champion last year, and this is just typical booking for WWE. It's all these people was just on the main card last year, and now they're in the pre-show. It's sad. It's really sad. Even Woken Matt Hardy was just on the main card last year with his brother, and now he's in a pre-show. I don't get it, but those matches I don't care much about. Cedric, I think is definitely going to win the cruiserweight title. It's a shame that match is in the pre-show. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, I want to do my prediction today instead of waiting to do it after SmackDown last night. So this is a long video. I know everybody's not watch the whole thing, but I hope you guys enjoy. So sign over, Ravens Flex. See you guys in the next one. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll tell you guys never. Peace.